Hello, future teachers. One of the most common things I hear when I ask people, do you want to teach or volunteer to be an assistant teacher, especially for the younger grades, our rock garden and butterfly garden grades, is that you don't know how to deal with that age group, or you're not sure that you're confident enough to teach. But we have a program called Spirit Play for both of those age groups, first through fourth grade. And it's a very easy process to follow. All the materials are prepared. It takes very little planning on the teacher's part. So I wanted to briefly introduce some of the background of the Spirit Play system and methodology, and give you an example of what a Spirit Play lesson looks like to help alleviate some of your fears in becoming a teacher for one of our younger groups. So let me just first go over some of the details about what Spirit Play is, what the responsibility of the assistant teacher is, and the responsibility of the lead teacher. And then I'll show you a brief example of one of the Spirit Play stories and how to do it. It's very simple, as you'll see, and hopefully it will give you the confidence to offer your time to teach some of our younger kids next church year. So there are two teachers in every classroom in all grades, not just the younger grades. But in the first and second grade class, which is our butterfly garden, and third and fourth grade class, our rock garden classes, these two teachers are called something unique. The assistant is actually called the doorkeeper, and the lead teacher is called the storyteller. So I just want to share with you some of the responsibilities of each of those positions. Doorkeeper responsibilities is to arrive at least 15 minutes before the class begins. Preferably, the door to the classroom should remain closed while you check the supplies in the classroom. You can check art materials, check the snack materials, check with the storyteller, who's the lead teacher, about any issues that are needed to be addressed. And then you'll open the door when you're both ready. Preferably, the doorkeeper will be sitting at the door of the classroom as the children arrive. Slow them down as you welcome them to the classroom. Ask if they are ready to come into the Spirit Play circle. Stay at the door during circle for latecomers, or as needed for any disruptions that might occur in the circle. During work time, the doorkeeper will help children as needed with activities and observe the children. During the snack time, the doorkeeper will help any children who need it with cleanup, help the children serve the snack, join in the snack circle, and then help with cleanup if needed after the snack. At the end of class, or towards the end of class, the doorkeeper will be at the door as parents arrive, and say goodbye to each child. And then after the class is finished, just clean up with the storyteller as necessary, and maybe discuss with the storyteller how you think things went. Now, the lead teacher in both of the rock garden and butterfly garden classes is called the storyteller. The storyteller should arrive 15 to 20 minutes before class begins. Check the story on the shelf, make sure it's in the correct place, all the pieces are in the packet. There should be a list in the packet, so that you can check that list against what's in the packet. Place the story that you will be telling in the correct place on the shelf. This will probably already be done for you, but just make sure it's in the correct place. Then you will anchor the circle. So when you and the doorkeeper are ready, you'll sit in your place in the circle facing the door and welcome children as they come in by name if you know their name. Direct any children to a place in the circle if you know the children and you know that you need to have certain children in certain places for classroom management. You can talk with the children as they arrive until you're ready to begin. And when you're ready to start circle time, you'll lead the opening circle with a chalice lighting, a song, meditation. This is really up to you. And when the children are ready, you'll tell the story and you'll lead what is called the wondering part. After the story, you'll have some questions to ask the children. This is called the wondering, Wondering. And then after the wondering, you'll have children choose their work for the morning. During the work time, you'll assist any children that need with their materials, observe the children in activities. You should allow about 20 minutes for the children to work on their own. Then you can ring a chime or flicker the lights for the end of work time and invite children to begin cleaning up. After cleanup of the work time, you'll anchor the snack time by sitting in your place. And as the children begin to return to the circle, you can signal the doorkeeper that servers may begin serving the children. You'll choose a couple servers from your group. Help children with their eating and drinking. You can lead a circle of thanks or a prayer if you're comfortable before indicating that the children are able to start eating their snack. Afterwards, show children how to dispose of their napkins and cups if you're using disposable material. And then you can converse in the circle or read a book or talk about upcoming events until the parents start to arrive. As the children leave, you can say something like, "Go now in peace," or some other kind of benediction. Remind the child if they made something that they might want to take it home, or affirm what they've made in some way. And if only a few children are left, if parents are slow in coming, you can have them help you with tidying up the room. After all the children are gone, then you can discuss with the doorkeeper how you felt that the session went, what you might want to do different next time. All right. So there are just a couple tips for you in telling this story. Number one, the lesson is told concentrating on the materials, not on the children in the circle. So when you see me give you a preview of how to tell the story, I won't actually be looking at the camera. I'll be looking at the materials, and that's what you should do in your class as well. So you'll look at the materials until the wondering time. Then at the wondering time, when you're asking questions, you can, of course, look at the children and engage with them. Some of the liturgical lessons and parables begin with the engagement of the children by wondering about the pieces and then move into telling the story. So depending on the lesson you have, you might either start with a story focusing on the materials and then focusing on the children during wondering, or you might start by wondering and focusing on the children and then go to the story focusing on the materials. This is the hardest part of storytelling for some people, because, and it is for me as well, because you don't look at the children in their eyes when you're telling the story. You look at the materials as you tell the story. The idea is to model to the children how the story is told so that they can enter into the story and make it their own when they choose to work with it at a later time or a later date. It's also to give them language that they need to talk about their own experiences that connect to the story or to the lesson. The more you are engaged in the materials, the more the children will be engaged in the story. The second tip, hold the pieces of the story in a reverent, gentle manner, as if they really matter to you, and hopefully they do, and that they're showing that they're sacred and that they are important. Hold each piece up before laying it on the underlay so that everyone can easily see what you're talking about. You'll sometimes want to show each piece around the circle, especially if you have a larger group. Always go around the circle the same way so that children will trust that you'll eventually show them the item. This minimizes children moving forward in the circle to see better or disrupting the group. The story is told from the children's perspective, so for the storyteller, it's actually told backwards. Items are laid using the underlay from the storyteller from right to left, which will be seen by most of the children as being from their left to right in the manner of reading. The pieces are laid mostly upside down from the storyteller's perspective. Tip number 3, You don't have to memorize the script, and you'll see in my example in this video that I have not memorized the script. Memory is not my strong suit. But do make it your own, or try to make it your own with your own words if possible. It's more important for you to understand what you're saying rather than to tell it word for word. I found that if you can relax in the story, the pieces themselves will lead you into telling it, especially if you have set up your basket so that the pieces are in order. If you have to, make some notes ahead of time on 3x5 cards to highlight story components or to remind you of the wondering questions. In the example I'm getting ready to show you, I'm actually going to read from a sheet of paper, but you might want to make your own 3x5 cards. Use them as unobtrusively as possible. And the last tip, remember to name each piece as you put the story or lesson back into the basket after the wondering is finished. Now, a little note on disruptions. Each storyteller has their own threshold for children talking or moving around or fidgeting in the circle during the story. Some want the ideal of children sitting very quietly on the rug. Some tolerate occasional talking or moving if it doesn't disrupt the story. You can decide for yourself how you will respond or what level you're comfortable with. Sometimes just pausing and going deeper into the story yourself is enough to center the children, but sometimes you'll have to stop and help everyone get ready again. For me, the test is that as long as the children are responding to the story in their talk or moving a bit closer to see the materials better, they're still engaged and I would not interrupt the flow of the story. Only if absolutely necessary, single out the child making the disturbance and ask if he or she can get himself or herself ready again. If they cannot, ask them to go and sit with the doorkeeper until they're ready and they let you know that they're ready to come back to the circle. Invite the child back into the circle at the wondering. If a child will not move to the doorkeeper, have the doorkeeper come into the circle and gently remove the child to the door. If for some reason a child has to be removed from the room, make sure the DRE, me, or the storyteller contacts the parents to discuss how they can help the child become more successful in the space. All right, so just a few responses, short responses of the storyteller. Number 1, get deeper into the story yourself. Number 2, sit back and tell the children that we all need to get ready again if there's some disturbance. Number 3, sit back and ask particular children if they can get themselves ready if there's a disturbance. Ask if they need to move in order to be ready for the story before it begins, if you notice that there might be some problem in the future. Number 4, sit back and ask a particular child to go sit with the doorkeeper until he or she can get himself or herself ready again. The child can let you know when he or she is ready to rejoin the circle. And number 5, if the child will not go to the doorkeeper, have the doorkeeper take the child to sit at the door until he or she can get ready to come back. Remember to invite the child back either at the wondering period or after, during their exploration and activity period. In some cases, it might be possible to remove the child from the classroom if there's a continuous problem. In that case, I do have one Sunday off a month, but I'm usually in the fellowship building when classes are in session. So in that case, you can bring them to me, and I'll sit with them and help them prepare to come back into the class. All right. Let's see if there's anything else here. I think that's pretty much it for an introduction. So I'm going to show you how to do a spirit play lesson. It's not complicated, as you'll see, and I hope it gives you some confidence. You'll see that I'm clumsy with it in some parts, and that's okay, as long as you make it your own, and you can practice with it too to become more comfortable with it. So the lessons will always be in a box or a packet on the shelf in the classrooms. So you'll walk over, get whatever lesson you will be doing from the shelf, and you can show it to the children. All right, so this lesson is a lesson by Norbert Capek, or about Norbert Capek, It's a flower communion lesson. So you'll show it to the children. Tell them this is the box it's in. After you give the lesson, you'll put it back where you got it on the shelf, and in future classes they can get it and work through it themselves during the activity time. This is a story about a brave man who had a very unique idea about how to celebrate the beauty inside of each of us and the beauty of the earth. In the Unitarian Universalist Church, we call this celebration Flower Communion. Communion means sharing. This celebration is about sharing and about differences. Differences in likes and dislikes, differences in giving and receiving, and the unique differences in all of us. Most Unitarian Universalist churches have a flower communion service each spring. Our church's flower communion is on Sunday, such and such a date. Look at this piece. It's bright red, soft, it really catches the eye. Norbert Čapek was born in 1870 in the country of Czechoslovakia, which was part of the country of Austria. His family was too poor to send him to school, so they sent Norbert to live with his uncle Victor in Vienna, Austria. His uncle was a tailor who cut and sewed fine clothing, and Norbert was his assistant. Although Norbert was able to pay his way through university by working as a tailor, his uncle's family was Catholic. Norbert did not agree with some of the teachings of the Catholic faith, and so he left their home and became a Baptist. The Baptist took him in and sent him to seminary to learn to become a missionary, where he would travel around to other countries and teach the Bible. He also started his own magazine with articles about science and psychology, and he asked many questions. But the Czech authorities did not trust the Baptists. They thought that they asked too many questions, and so the Czech police raided Čapek's home and office and took away his writings and magazines. So Čapek decided to move to the United States to escape persecution. In the United States, he discovered the Unitarian faith, which encouraged his asking of questions and his scientific spirit. He joined a Unitarian church in New Jersey and married an American woman who was a Unitarian. Čapek was then sent back by the American Unitarian Association to his home in Czechoslovakia to be a missionary there and help people to recover from World War I. Norbert rented a concert hall in which to meet, and people came from many religious backgrounds to this new church. The people were discouraged with the teaching of their former religion and were seeking something new. They didn't want any part of their old religion. So Čapek's new church was very different from the ones they had known. Čapek did not wear a minister's robe. There was no singing of hymns, no prayers, no stained glass windows, no decorations of any kind in the church. But Čapek felt that something was missing, something that might tie them all together despite their differences. One day, on his way home from church, he came upon a brilliant flower by the side of the road. And suddenly he got an idea that began our flower communion. Let's have our own flower communion. The next Sunday he asked each person to bring in a flower of any kind. Each of you entered our spirit play room with a flower. And now the children would pick up their flowers and they can place them with the other flowers. The doorkeeper would have given that to them on their way in. Each flower is like each of you, different shapes, different colors and sizes, unique and special. Watch what happens when all the flowers go into a vase or a basket. I forgot, but I would have had a vase and I would have put each of these flowers into a small vase or basket. It takes many flowers to make a bouquet, and it takes many kinds of people to make a church community. It takes all of you to make our class strong and special. Everyone in our church here at Harvard needs a little something different from the church. Some people like to give, serve on committees, bake brownies, take care of the building, sing in the choir. Other people need more care, and we take them dinners, light a candle for them, or put a stone in the fountain. The minister visits them in the hospital or nursing home. Let's enjoy the unique beauty of our flowers and our friends. As we leave today, you can each take a different flower from the vase to celebrate our friends and our Spirit Play class. We receive many gifts of love and friendship from our church friends. Now I want to ask you a few questions. So if you have an answer, feel free to give me your answer. I wonder if you have seen or heard this story before. I wonder what part of flower communion you like the best. I wonder which part do you think is most important? I wonder where you might be in the story. I wonder if this lesson reminds you of any of our Unitarian Universalist promises. I wonder where the spirit of love might be in this story. Now, watch how I put this story away, so that if you want to make it your work later, you'll be able to get it ready for the next person. Now watch where I go put this basket away, so that you will know where to find it in the classroom. And that's it. So, as you can see, it's a very simple process. I forgot the vase or basket, but I'm sure you won't. So there's really nothing to it. The biggest difficulty that you might find is getting used to telling a story without looking at the children. Having appropriate pauses is difficult for me anyway. And there's different energies in different classrooms, so you might encounter some children who are a little more difficult to have focus while you're giving the story. But if that's the case, try to have the doorkeeper take them to sit by her or him until they're ready to come back into the circle. And as a last resort, hopefully I'll be there on most Sundays to help with any behavioral issues if I need to. So that's it. I hope that this shows you it's not too difficult to be a teacher for Butterfly Garden or Rock Garden. And I trust that many of you will want to give of your time and dedicate yourself to at least one block in working with the children next church year. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at dre@uuharvard.org. Thank you.